Alright guys, so the next thing I'd like to do is actually style these links on the header, and I want to change this link to change it to white or the primary color of orange. And I'm going to say that inside the UL I want to target the LIs and I want to target the A's, the anchor tags, and say that they have a primary color of primary color, like that. But for the action, and I want because I want to target the action, I'm going to say the ampersand, and the one that had the anchor tag that has a class of action, I'm going to say that the color should be white, like that, white. And you can see it's very nice. Now let me also add some padding on right here. Okay, maybe not some padding, but let me add some margin on the LI and say margin of 0 on the top and bottom and 10 pixels on the left and right, just to push them apart, like that. And let me just change. Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Now we can see that we already have the showcase done. It's already done like that. Next we are going to deal with our actual image gallery. So I'm going to go back to the HTML. Let me just put a comment right here and say this is for the showcase. This is for the showcase. And I'm going to go below the showcase. I'm going to make another comment. I'm going to say image gallery, like that, so it doesn't confuse me and it's easier to edit later. So I'm going to create a section with a class of gallery, like that. And inside, now this gallery will have a background color of the primary color right there. So inside I'd like to have let me just have an h3 saying browse our image gallery, and I'm going to have divs inside. Now the actual divs are the ones that are going to be holding the images, so I want to have a div with a class of cards, and inside the divs I want an image. Let me just think about this first. So inside the divs I want, wait a minute, how many are they? There are 12. So I want 12 divs, and all of them should have a class of cards, and I want images inside, and the images should have a class of maybe not a class, just like that. Okay, so they all have a class of cards and they're all images inside. Now I'm just going to place this full screen, and I'm going to open this images tab so I can know the images, and I'm going to say for the image source images, and we're going to say antiquities store. Now I'm not going to place an alt attribute right here because it seems irrelevant for now. And the next one is images slash bike .jpg. The next one is images slash blue car. The next is images slash cassette collection. Next is images slash cassette, like that. Next is images slash old Instagram photo, logo rather. Okay, the next is images slash old school parking lot, and next is old school telly. The next is phone. The next is pocket watches, and we're almost done by saying this is Queen and this is TV collection, like that. Now once I save this, you can see that in the browser it's going to have all the images like that. Let me just place this as full screen, and you can see it has all the images. It has all the images. Now we're going to resize these images just so that they can be smaller. Now what I was thinking about is that I just place these images to be square so that it becomes easier to style them using grid CSS. So what I'm going to do is go back to style CSS, and I'm going to say, add a comment here and say this is the gallery, and I want to say that for the gallery for the gallery, then it should have a background color of primary color like that, and I want the text color to be white, and I want padding on the left, okay, padding on the top to be 50 pixels, and 20 pixels with left and right so that it rhymes with the header, and I want about 100 pixels on the bottom like that, and you can see it looks very nice, okay, kind of nice. And then I want to target, let me just text line center first of all, let's bring this to the center, and I want to target the H3 inside the image gallery, and I want to say that padding on the bottom should be 30 pixels. Let me also say font size should be 46 pixels. That's better. And then let's target now the images, and actually let me just check this. So these are class of cards. Now I don't want this to be a flex item, so what I'm going to do is take all these divs with the class of cards, all of them till the end, and I'm going to place them inside a class of grid like this, so that when so that I can just target the grid, and it will only be targeting the divs inside the grid, and it won't be targeting the H3. So I can say that for the gallery right here, and I say that I want the class of grid, I want it to display grid, and I want the grid template columns to repeat 4 times, one fraction of each. These are for big screens, like this. Now I want to limit the width and height of these images. So what I'm going to do is, let me first of all add a grid gap so that these separate, and I'm going to say let the gap be 20 pixels. That's big, let's say 10 pixels like that. And I'm going to say inside the grid I want the images, and I want the height of the images to be 300 pixels, and I want the width to be 300 pixels as well, so that they're square like that. Has a big space, so let me make this 400 pixels, not the height but the width, 400 pixels like that. And you can see it already creates a very nice image gallery for us. And that's just so that the reason I'm doing this is so that it took me a very long time of trial and error just to get these into place like this. So next I'm going to this is pretty much done with, by the way guys, this is pretty much done with. The only thing that we're going to be changing is once it gets to a width of 400 pixels, you'll notice that it will create a horizontal scroll bar. So I'm only going to scale this down from 400 to 300 and to maybe 250, because the smallest screen size right now is about 260 or 250. So let's deal with the footer next. Let's deal with the footer, and we'll say, let me add a comment saying footer, and we say that we want a footer with the class of footer, and let me add an ID here, an ID of gallery. The reason I'm adding this ID you'll see in a moment. So inside the footer I want a div with the class of footer logo, the class of footer dash logo, and inside footer logo I want a div which will be holding the image, the logo I mean, so this logo right here, and we'll say Grater logo. And still inside the footer logo div I want another div with a class of social which will be holding all the links that we need. So I'm going to say I want another list with the list items totaling 5, and I want them to be inside an anchor tag, and inside the anchor tag I want an I tag saying that has a class of FAB and FA-Facebook, just so we can begin styling it. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because of these links down here. these links. Now all of this is inside one div, and that's the div that I'm calling footer logo. So let me just tell this is Facebook, this is Instagram, this is Twitter, this is Pinterest, and this is Google, like that. And you can see they all appear right there. Now you can see that these have a larger font size. So instead of changing that in the CSS, all you can do is Font also has other classes built in, and if you want to increase the font size, all you have to do is add an FA class dash 2x or 3x, 4x, 5x, depending on how much you want. And I'm just going to copy this, paste this here, and paste this there, paste this there, and paste this there. Now because these links won't be going anywhere, I'm just going to add a hashtag on all of them, a hashtag like that, and you can see they appear with a bigger font size. Now they won't be going anywhere, as you can see. Now that we are on a bigger screen, you can see that when I click this, because it takes us back to the home page, when I click this, you see the way it jumps. So in order to fix that, if you want a smooth scrolling effect, all you have to do is come back here and uncomment this, and when we try that again, we'll say, you see it scrolls now, just one line, and you get that smooth scrolling effect, which is much better. Now for the footer, let me continue adding links to the footer, and we'll say now outside of the footer logo div, I want another div saying, okay, not, it doesn't have a class, but it has UL with two list items with anchor tags that say this one goes to the login HTML, and it will say login, and this one goes to sign up HTML, and it will say sign up, like that. And after that, we also have another div with the same structure, two list items with anchor tags. And this, now the reason why I added this ID here, ID gallery, is because this link has a name called browse, and we're going to be targeting the gallery, so that when a user clicks this link, it will scroll up, it will look for the element that has the ID of gallery, and it will scroll up to that element. Now this next one won't be going anywhere, and it's going to say install, like that. And now for the final div, we're going to have a form with a class of form. We don't need an action because we're not performing any server-side duties, and we're going to say, and each for saying subscribe to our newsletter, like that. And we're going to have an input with a type of email, with a placeholder of email, and with a required attribute, simple HTML validation. Also going to add a button in the class of action, and with another class of btn footer, just so that I can state it individually, and I'm going to say subscribe. And we can add another title attribute right there, and we say subscribe to our newsletter, like that. Now this title attribute, let me show you what it does. When you come and hover over this, it will show you the text subscribe to our newsletter, like that. So we can begin styling our footer, and we say that the footer has 30% lighter. The footer is 30% lighter than the original color. So you can come around here and say that for the footer, go to the bottom, and saying this is the footer, and say that the footer, we have display flex, align item center, justify contents to space between, with a padding of 50 pixels on the top and bottom, 20 pixels left and right, and added pixels on the bottom, and with a background color of lighten, once again the lighten function, and we say we want to lighten the primary color by 30%, like that. And is that really 30? Maybe it was 40%, okay, by 40%. Now the next thing we need to do obviously is to reduce this image size, and we say that for the footer, inside the class of footer dash logo there is an image, and we want the image to have a width of 70 pixels like that. And we want the footer logo class, what is inside this footer logo? There's a footer logo with a div with a class of social. Now I want to target this class of social, and I'll say that it's inside the footer logo class. I'm going to go below it and say the div with the class of social, and I want the unordered list, and I want to say that they should display flex as well. And inside the list, there are list items. I want them to have a margin of 0 on the top and bottom, and 10 pixels on the left and right. But I also want to push this social div down, so I'm going to say it should have a margin top of about 50 pixels like that. And you can see it's pushed away from the image right there. Next thing I want to do is add some margin. Okay, you know what? The reason why you can see that there's some bit of zigzaggy feeling to it is because I have align item center here. So I'm going to remove it, which will place everything to the top like that, which is much better. And we'll say that the next thing I want to do is target all the ULs. This is the footer. I want to target all the ULs. The ULs in the footer. I want to target the list items. I want them to have a margin on the top of 10 pixels, 0 on the left and right. And inside the list item, there are anchor tags, which should have a color of 333 like that. And you can see that changes their color like this, and it looks very nice. So obviously the next thing I would like to do is style this form. So let me put this side by side so you can see it in action. And you say that for the form class, we want text aligned to the right like that. You can see it's aligned to the right, and I want a color of 333 for the title as well. And I want for the inputs, I want the input to have a padding of 12 pixels. I want a font family of inherit, because inputs also don't inherit the same font family as the body unless you explicitly declare them. And I want the input color to be primary color, and I want a border of 2 pixels solid and primary color, and I want a border radius of 4 pixels. And then I want to style the placeholder inside the input, the placeholder, and I'll say that actually, you know what, this won't matter, this won't matter, yeah, it won't matter. Okay, it does matter actually. Okay, I was wrong. And we'll say for the color of the placeholder, we want them to have a primary color as well, so the placeholder also changes color. Let me just add a font weight right here, a font weight of 700. Oh, the reason why this isn't working is because imagine if you are dealing with only CSS, you would say input, then double semicolon, and then placeholder like that. So the reason why this isn't working is because in the CSS folder, this is appearing as input, then like this placeholder. That's why this isn't working. So in order to remove this space and to place it immediately after the input, you need to add an ampersand right there, and you can see now it will change. And now I want a letter spacing of 1 pixels, just so that you know can be some bit of spacing right there. And I want for the input, I want to let me just add this one. Is it an h4 or an h5 tag? Just confirm. On the form, it's an h4 tag. I want to add some padding on the bottom of 10 pixels just to push this down like that. And you can see that it looks very nice. What else do I need to do? The next thing I need to do is change the cover color for this. So I'm going to say it's inside the form, and it has a class of btn footer, and I want that on hover I want on hover to be, I want to have a color of primary color, like that. I also want to have a letter spacing of 2 pixels on the button. And next we have that, and it looks very nice. Now I would like for this input to be on top and the button to be on the bottom. So we can do that by adding a width on the button, on the input I mean. Let's say a width of 300 pixels, which will push the button to the bottom. Or am I wrong? We can also say that this button should display block. Oh my god. Should display block, like that. And we want it to text align to the right. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. Okay. Since it doesn't work, we can just go back to the HTML, and you can say that let's add a line break right there, like that. And you can say for the BTN footer, let's have a margin on the top of 10 pixels, and it looks much better like that. It looks much better. And just like that, guys, we are done with this home page. We are done with the home page. Okay, almost, because we still haven't added the hover effect and we don't have the button. So let me start by adding the button right there, and I'm going to go to the top above the header, and I'm going to say a button, the class of btn top, and I want an icon inside with the class of fs and fa dash chevron up. And once I do that, you'll see that the button appears right here. Now I want this button to be positioned absolute so that it doesn't take up any space of the document, and it will appear inside this element. And then I want to position it to the right and to the bottom so that it appears right here. So you can do that in the CSS by saying btn top, I want it to be a global style. So I'm going to come below this and say btn dash top should position absolute, and from the right to be 20 pixels and from the bottom to be 20 pixels, which will bring it right there. Actually not position absolute but fixed, because I want it to scroll with the web page. You can see that now it scrolls, you see, now it scrolls. So let's tell the button right there, and we say I want a padding of 5 pixels. I want a background color of primary color. I want the text color to be white. I want a border of 2 pixels solid and primary color, and I want a border radius 4 pixels, like that. And let's now target the hover effect, and to say for the hover, the background color should be transparent. You say the cursor should be pointer, move this up. We want the text color to be primary color, not actually text color but the color of the icon on hover. And then actually that's it, right? Let's add a transition so that it doesn't just jump out. So transition 0.4 seconds, like that. See that? It's actually better like that. And then the next thing I'd like to do is now let me say this has opacity of 0 so that it disappears like that. It disappears like that. Now the next thing I want to do is add a class that will be targeting in the JavaScript, so that once the user scrolls a certain height, then that class will be added, otherwise it will be removed. So I'm going to say for the button, I'm going to say let's tie it together with another class called show, and to say just change the opacity back to 1, like that. And just to test that this works, if you add another class of show here, you'll see that the button will appear like that. So it's working. We can remove that, and now we can link our JavaScript file on the bottom and say it's in a JS folder called main.js, like that. and now we can go to main.js, and we can now grab our button. It's called, let's call it top button, and we're going to use document query selector, and it has a class of, what's its class? It has a class of btn top. Let's say btn top, and then we'll also need we also want the header, because I want to deal with this header also. So I'm going to say above this, let's grab the header, and it has an ID, document.get element by ID. It has an ID of header like that. Now we want to target a method in JavaScript called onScroll. So we're going to say window.onScroll. We want to call a function that we're going to create here called show header like that. Let's create that function, and we'll say function show header, and we want to say we are testing for the condition whether the user has scrolled a certain height or whether they haven't. So we're going to say that for if the document.body.scroll top, meaning we are testing for the height from the top of the body, if it is greater than 50, then and we also check for another condition called document element dot scroll top, it's also greater than 50, then we want the header to have a background color, header.style, really header.style.background color. Remember, this is camel case because it's in JavaScript, to have a background color of white like that. And once the user scrolls back to the top, we want to add an else condition saying header.style.background color to be transparent like that. And you can see that. Now the reason why it's jumping in is because we don't have a transition effect, so let's just add a transitionary effect on the header, and we say transition by 0.4 seconds as well. You can see that now it appears. So the next thing I'd like to do is add the button as well. So because it's practically the same thing that we are testing here, I don't want to add another function, so I'm just going to say below, and I want the top button dot style I want to add a class orange, so top button dot class list dot add what do they call it, what class did I give it, class of show. Okay, so add the show class, and else I want the top button class list, and I want to remove the class of show like that. And once you do that, you can see that the button appears and the header also appears. When you scroll back to the top, they both disappear like that. Now you notice that this doesn't still do anything because we need to add an event listener on it, so that when the user clicks it, it actually scrolls to the top. So we're going to go back to the JavaScript and say the top button, and we're going to add an event listener on it. We're listening for the click event, and using ES6 JavaScript, we're going to create another function and say the document body.scroll top is equal to 0, and document element scroll top is equal to 0 as well. And once you do that, when you click it, it goes back to the top. Very nice. Now the reason why it has this smooth scrolling to the top is also because of this line that we added right here. So if I were to remove it and you click it again, you see it jumps, and I don't want it to jump, so I'm just going to add it right there, and you see it looks very nice. And just like that, we're going to be done with the home page for this. Now once we're done with this, we're going to need to add we're going to need to add media queries. So just to show how this looks, you see it looks very terrible. So because I only want to add as few media queries as possible, because this is going to scale down, so I don't have a problem with that, and this is also going to scale down. So I want to target devices at in a certain range. So I can do that by saying that I want devices that are within a width of 300 pixels and a max width of 600 pixels, like that. And this will target the devices that are within this range. And within this range, I want the footer to display as to have a flex direction of what am I saying? To have a flex direction of column. Actually, you know what? I can just come up here so that make work easier and say, let me add a flex wrap of wrap. So what this will do is that once the footer takes up the whole width of the device, then it will automatically place the next elements on the next line. So do that. Once I do that, notice what happens when I move to a smaller screen. You can see it just places it automatically to the next line, like that. Now I want to target let me target the footer. Let me target the footer and say that within this range, I want the footer to have a flex direction of column, like that. Really? That's 600 pixels. Let me make this 700 pixels so that it's just a bit bigger, like that. And then I want to align this to the center and justify content to the center. So I'm going to say align item center, justify content center, like that. This will place them to the center. And then the next thing I want to do is what's happening here? What's happening with this image? Okay, I'm going to fix it in a few. So the next thing I'd like to do is now just add the width of this to be the same as the width of the input. So I can do that by saying it's inside the footer. So I want the form, and I want the input, and I want the button to have a width of 200 pixels, like that. And it looks very nice. And let me just add for the social class, it's inside the footer dash logo, and I want what's it called, the social class, and I want to have a margin on the bottom, just so that it pushes this down a bit, a margin on the bottom of 20 pixels, like that. And what's happening with this image? Okay, let's just fix this image a bit, and I can go to the footer logo class and say for the image, I want the image to display block, and then I want the margin to be auto so that it places it to the center, like that. And it looks very nice, very nice. And this also looks nice. Now we won't need to add a hamburger menu for this, because you know, even on small screens it still looks nice. So what I'm going to do is just now target this class so that I can make this to span only one fractional each. So I can say that let me say, where is it? It's on the grid class right here. So the gallery and the grid class. So I can come back here and say above the footer, and I want the gallery, and I want the grid class, I want the grid template columns to have one fractional each. And let me just reduce this to 600, because I've realized that having one fractional at 700 pixels is just going to take up too much space, like that. And you can see it looks very nice. It looks very nice. Now I don't want as many pictures on a mobile phone, because cloning these many pictures is going to be quite a pain. So I'm going to insert the grid class and say that I want the div with an nth child of even. Now what this will do is that it will target all the even elements inside the grid class, and then I want to display them as none, which will remove them from the from the from the from the grid, and you'll only remain with 6 pictures on a mobile phone like that. It's much better and much easier to scroll. Now let me reduce the font size for this, and I'll say that the H2 should have a font size of 30 pixels. Is this not a H2? What did I style it up here? It's an H3. Okay, it's an H3. Font size of 30 pixels like that. Reduce in height, and I'm also going to reduce this just a bit. Oh wait, I didn't increase the font size for this span, so let me just do that before I forget. It's in the showcase with the span, and I'm going to say the font size should be 64 pixels like that. On a smaller screen though, I want to reduce it once again, and I want actually this looks pretty nice, but let me just reduce this for the sake. And I'm going to say that for the showcase class, I want the H1 to have a font size of 30 pixels, actually 36. No, 30 pixels, so that the span can have a font size of 36 pixels. I always want this span to have a bigger font size. Did I do that correctly? Oh no, I didn't do that correctly. They're inside an overlay class, so I need to add a class of overlay right here and paste this in, and you see that looks much better. And yeah, that's it for this page really, because once you get to this bigger widths, you see it just scales automatically, and it looks pretty nice. It actually looks great. So next thing we're going to do is deal with the login page. Now let me show you what I meant by the boiler, by adding an underscore boiler right here, and I'm going to just add it right now inside the dist, and I'll say boiler.html. What I'm going to do is copy everything on the HTML and take it to this boiler, but then I'm going to remove all these sections. I'm going to remove this section up to the showcase right here. I'm going to remove it, that I only remain with the header and the footer. Now the reasons for this is that I don't want to keep on writing all this over and over again, so I'm just going to grab this from the boiler HTML and paste it on the login like that. And I forgot one thing that I've just realized. I did not add the favicon right here, so let me just do that in the index HTML, and I'm going to add a link right here. Okay, link for favicon right there, and it's inside it's in images with the logo 48, the smaller image. Once I save that, you can see that the favicon now appears. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm also just going to copy this and paste it in the boiler HTML, so that it also has the favicon in the login HTML as well right there. And then I'm going to copy this and add it to the sign up form like that. Now the next thing we're going to do is also grab the create a partial SCSS file. Now in order to create a partial file, you need to have an underscore before the name of the file and say login.scss like that. And in order to import it, you come to the top of your file right here and say import login. Now you'll notice that when you're importing, you don't place the underscore and you don't place the extension, because SCSS will automatically know that you are importing a partial file, so that it doesn't keep on recompiling the same thing over and over again. So now that we're done with index.html, I'm just going to close that. We're also done with style CSS, main.js, we're also done. We're done with the boiler, and we're remaining with the login and the sign up form. Now let me just open the login form right there. You can see that this is what we have because we have imported the files. So what I would like to do is, I don't want this footer actually on the login, because I want the image to span 100 viewport heights. So I'm just going to delete this footer like that, and I'm going to go below the header, and I'm going to create a section with the class of login, and I'm going to say that it has a div inside with the class of overlay login. The reason why I don't have to have a class of overlay, because I don't want it to use the overlay from the index.html. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to say this should have a form with a class of form, okay, not form but form control, and I'm going to say for the login we need only two, so I'm going to say we need an input with a type of text with a placeholder of username and with the required attribute, and I'm also going to say we need a button with a class action, and we need a title, not a title really, but what am I doing, that text saying login, but we also need another input with a class of email with saying placeholder is equal to enter your email, and we also want to have it required attribute like that. And once we do that, we are pretty much okay, almost. We need a small tag here saying don't have an account, log in. Okay, we need this to be an href, which will take us to login HTML, and we'll say log in that, and you can see that is created right there. So we can go to our login CSS and we target the login class. Yes, we say for the login we want a background. I want this to be a photo background, so I'm going to say URL, it's inside double quotes, it's inside images, and it's called cassette.jpg, and I want no repeat for the background. Repeat, if I can just spell it, place to the center, and for the place to the cover as well, with a height of 100 viewport heights like that. You see it appears. Now I want the class of overlay dash login, and this is where we will be styling our form. So I want to first add a height of 100 viewport heights as well, and I want to say display flex, which will be targeting this form actually. Align item center, not active, align item center, and justify content to the center, which will place it to the center because we have defined a height of 100 viewport heights like that. Now I want the flex direction to be columns so that they go in column form like that. If you can just save. Oh, what am I doing? It won't work because it only has the overlay login class only has one element, which is the form. So in order to fix that, we just say for the form with the class of form control, we also want to display flex, and we want the flex direction to be column like that, and you can see it now fixes that. And then we want a background color of very light gray, which is F1 with a padding of around 50 pixels like that. Let's add a border radius of 4 pixels, no 5 pixels like that. And then you'll notice that I'm not adding a background color for this. You can add it if you want, but I think this it looks fine, and it looks very colorful, and it it just jumps out very nicely. So next I want to start the inputs for this input. So I'm going to say for the inside the form control class, I want the input, I want the padding to be 12 pixels, and I want margin of 3 pixels on top and bottom and 0 on the left and right. I want a width of 400 pixels. I want a font family of will inherit work, no it won't work, so I'm going to place a font family of Apple, this one, and I'm going to say a font weight of 700, and I'm going to say a letter spacing of 1 pixel, and I'm going to say for the placeholder I want the color to be okay. I didn't find the primary color here, so I'm going to go to style CSS, grab this, and then I'm going to say this should be the primary color right there, and I also want the text color here to be the same color like that. And yeah, you can see that it looks very nice, very nice. Let me just add a border right here, a border of 2 pixels and solid and the primary color like that. Let me add a border radius of 4 pixels. Let me just add this margin a bit to 5 pixels so that they can separate better like that. And this button, I need to style this button. So that it shows a color of text color, a color of primary color, I mean. So inside the form, it has a class of button, not a class but an element of button, and to say for the hover effect I want color to be the dark orange color. Oh my god, if I can just type like that, it looks very nice. But let me add a margin on the top for the button of 10 pixels. It pushes down maybe 20 pixels, pushes down like that. Actually on the top and bottom, so let me just rectify this. Top and bottom 10 pixels and 0 on the left and right, so that it also pushes this down. Excuse me. And then I'll say this one goes to don't have an account, sign up. This should say sign up, not login. This should say sign up, and it should go to signup.html like that. Okay, it works fine. And just like that, we are done with the login page. Now everything will be the same for the sign up page, only that it will have more inputs. So what I'm going to do is copy this section and wait a minute, did I paste? Okay, copy this section, and I'm going to remove this footer as well. Remove this footer, and I'm going to paste this section in, and I'm going to say already have an account. So change this text already have an account, and change this to login HTML, and change this to log in like that. Now we're also going to add some more inputs here, and we're going to say for the username, email, we also need an input with the type of password, and we say placeholder is password, and we say it's required as well, and say input, another input with the type of password as well for confirm password, and we say the placeholder is confirm password, and we say it's required as well like that. And you can see just like that, we already have the login page right there and the sign up page right there, using the same classes so that you don't have to keep repeating yourself. And just like that, let me just add some media queries for this, because once you scale down, it's going to mess up some things right there. So what I'm going to do is add a media query on login SCSS, a media query for what input width 400 pixels. So I'm going to say for a max width of 400 pixels, I want where is this class? It's in, oh my god, it's in login overlay login form control input. It's in login dash overlay login, and it's form control, and I want the input to be 400, not 400 but 300 pixels like that. Let me just put this inspect and place it on okay, that works fine. Now you can see that on a smaller screen you see this doesn't really work well, so I'm going to say it has wait a minute, what did I do? For the input should have a width of 300 pixels like that. You see that reduces it. And I'm going to say I want to remove the padding on the form. I want to say the padding to be 0. Okay, that looks better. Okay, it doesn't look better, but it smooth the horizontal scrolling. So let me put this on this side, and I want the padding on the top to be 30 pixels and on the left right to be 20 pixels, like that. And actually actually that's it. That's it, really. That's really it. Let me see something. Let me also add another breakpoint at media max width and 321 pixels. This is for the iPhone 5. Is it iPhone 5? Let me just confirm. This one right here, you can see I still want the margin to appear here, so I'm going to say, just going to grab all of this, place it there, and I'm going to say this width should reduce to 250 pixels. Let me see that. 250 pixels, and once we reduce that, it actually looks much better, like that. And yeah, guys, okay, we're not really done, but we're done with this, so I'd like to deploy this to Netlify. This works, it looks very nice, so I'd like to deploy this to Netlify. Alright guys, so the next thing we'll need to do is actually deploy this to GitHub, and then we'll also need to host it on Netlify. So I opened my GitHub account right here, and you'll need to create a new repository. So I'm just going to say this repository name should be image gallery, like that, for example. Description is optional. I'm not going to add anything because I'm actually going to delete this repository so that it doesn't confuse, so that I don't actually have two repositories doing the same thing. I might add a Readme, but if you need to add a Readme, you can just click this and it add one for you. And if you need a license, you can choose a license from any one of these right here. And then once you're done with that, you create a repository right there. So let it create a repository, and you can see this. You can create a new file, blah blah blah. So what I actually want to do, what I actually want to do is get started by creating or uploading an existing file. So you can come and click upload an existing file. So actually what I'm going to do is open my documents here and grab from the Grater Image Gallery, grab both of these folders and just drag and drop them here, and just wait to finish to upload. So I'm just going to pause it, and then once it finishes uploading, I'm going to be back so that don't sit here in awkward silence. Alright guys, so it's finished uploading. So all you have to do is now, maybe you can come and write here, maybe call it initial upload. You don't really need to add this, but it's very convenient and it's very important if you want to keep track of your uploads and your deploys. So I'm going to commit the changes right there and let it process the files, and it's processing. And while it's processing, I'm going to actually open Netlify right here. And when you go to netlify.com, this is the page that you'll meet with, and you're just going to log in. If you don't have an account, it's going to give you a prompt here to create one with GitHub. And you can see that this is the one that I deployed yesterday, and you can see that I'm also hosting my website from Netlify. So I'm just going to click new site from Git, like that, and I'm going to select GitHub because I'm going to be deploying it from GitHub. And then if you have not authorized it, again it will also give you a prompt to authorize. Now you can see that the one that I want is actually here. So we're just going to select it, and I'm going to say for the published directory, I want it to publish the dist directory, because this is the folder that contains all our compiled CSS along with JavaScript, along with the images as well as the HTML. And all you have to do next is click deploy site. Once it has deployed, you can see site deploys in progress, but I want to change this a bit, and I want to change the site name. I want to change it to maybe like Galleria. Is that available? You can call it anything you want. Galleria-image. You can call it anything you want, but it'll have a subdomain of Netlify if you don't have your own domain. If you have your own domain, all you need to do is okay, I'll do that in another video. So let me just check if this has been deployed, and you can see it's already up on the internet, so anyone with this link can just visit and see what you have created and it looks fantastic. It actually looks fantastic. You can check the login page as well. You can see the login page is right there. You can check the sign up page. The sign up page is also right there, and you can see it looks very nice. And that is a deploy from GitHub. Now the reason why I like this deploy from GitHub is because if I were to come here and maybe say, if I were to come to the index.html and change something, change like anything, maybe add some spacings here, and I deploy it again, Netlify will automatically detect the change in your GitHub repository once you publish it to GitHub, and the changes will take effect immediately on your website. So that is the power of Netlify. So congratulations, if you have been coding along, you have created an entire website from scratch, provided you have not added any server-side code, but you can see the front end is looking very nice. So you have created an entire website, you have added the images, you have done CSS grid, you have added a bit of JavaScript for functionality and for a dynamic feel to the web page. You can see you have also created a login form, and you've also created a sign up form. So if you like this video, remember to leave a like, leave a comment on anywhere you think that I should improve, or anywhere you see that I made a mistake, and remember to share, like, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.